Okay, let's dive right into this. For most of us, just the idea of skipping a meal triggers this instant sense of panic, right? We've basically been programmed to think fasting is just starvation. That if we stop eating, our bodies are just going to shut down, our muscles will waste away, and we'll be left completely drained. But today, in this explainer, we're going to completely shatter that starvation myth. We're looking at the actual, measurable biology of what happens inside your cells when you stop eating. The goal here is to totally reframe fasting. We're taking it out of that miserable realm of restrictive dieting and revealing it for what it truly is, a highly sophisticated evolutionary cellular repair program that is literally built into your DNA.
To really wrap our heads around this, we kind of have to challenge that fundamental fear of hunger. Biologically speaking, fasting is absolutely not your body hitting the panic button and entering crisis mode. It's actually just an incredibly intelligent system switching power sources. Think of it like a building's power supply. The incoming food from your last meal, that's the main power grid. And obviously, when the grid is up, your body uses it because it's right there. It's immediate. But what happens when the grid goes offline? The building doesn't just permanently black out. No, it flips a switch and fires up the backup generator. And in human biology, that backup generator is your stored body fat. Try to think of your body fat not as this enemy we constantly fight, but as a super smart evolutionary battery pack holding trillions of calories of energy. The second you stop eating, your body elegantly transitions from depending on external fuel to mobilizing its own internal reserves.
Now, at the cellular level, there are two totally distinct modes you can be in, the fed state and the fasted state. And here's the kicker, they cannot run at the same time. Think of the fed state protein, which is called mTOR, as this hyperactive construction foreman just constantly shouting, build, grow, store, which is great, we need that, but if the foreman literally never stops shouting build, nobody ever gets the chance to take out the trash or check the foundation for structural damage, right? Well, when you stop eating, your cellular fuel gauge, a protein called AMPK, starts climbing. AMPK is like the strict site inspector. When it senses energy running low, it marches right up to that foreman, mTOR, and completely shuts him down. All that rapid growth stops, and the demolition and repair crew finally gets the green light to get to work.
Before we get too deep into that repair process, let's quickly tackle some of the biggest fasting fears head-on. First up, muscle loss. Everyone thinks fasting just eats away your muscle, but the biology actually shows the exact opposite. During a fast, human growth hormone, or HGH, powerfully spikes. This acts as a biological preservation order, specifically commanding your body to protect lean muscle mass and burn fat instead. Second fear, brain fog. Well, when your glucose drops, your liver starts producing ketones from your fat. And let me tell you, ketones are an incredibly clean, steady fuel that easily crosses the blood-brain barrier. So instead of brain fog, people often experience sharply enhanced mental clarity. And third, stress. Yes, fasting can cause a tiny initial cortisol bump. But once your body gets fat adapted and is running cleanly on those ketones, your cortisol levels actually reset right back to healthy, normal baselines.
All right, let's quickly map out how all of this builds, hour by hour. This timeline right here outlines the incredible biological journey of a fast. Around the 12-hour mark, you're making that critical transition. Insulin drops, the backup generator spins up, and ketones start rising. Then, at 24 hours, the short-term fasting magic really kicks in, with systemic autophagy, which is a massive cellular deep clean. If you push further to 48 hours, we see a massive spike in growth hormone for intense tissue repair. And then at 72 hours, we hit a profound, complete reset of the immune system. So as you can see, the biological stakes and the cellular benefits literally escalate hour by hour the longer the body stays in this repair state.
Let's zoom in on that first major milestone, autophagy. The literal translation from Greek is self-eating, but don't worry, it's not in some creepy zombie movie kind of way. Autophagy is simply your body's internal demolition and recycling center. See, inside your cells, you accumulate all this microscopic garbage over the years. We're talking misfolded proteins, oxidized lipids, just damaged parts everywhere. And this buildup is exactly what drives aging and disease. But when you stop eating and that site inspector AMP takes over, your cells create these specialized little pouches called autophagosomes. They hunt down the cellular debris, swallow it up, and dissolve it with acid to extract raw materials like amino acids. Literally nothing is wasted. It's the ultimate recycling program. But, and this is key, this recycling center only opens its doors when the body stops getting new external food.
And if you're sitting there thinking this is just some trendy internet wellness fad, you might want to reconsider. This is billion-year-old fundamental biology. In fact, back in 2016, the Nobel Prize in Medicine was awarded to Japanese cell biologist Yoshinori Ohsumi for his decades of work decoding this exact process. The Nobel Committee actually highlighted that he revealed the fundamental mechanisms for controlling these critical cellular functions in response to fasting. So yeah, this isn't a hack. This is an evolutionarily perfected maintenance system that runs in everything from yeast to humans, perfectly designed to keep our cells young, efficient, and disease-free.
Now, since we obviously can't easily measure our autophagy levels directly in our bathrooms, we use a biological cheat code, the Dr. Boz ratio. It's super simple. You just divide your blood glucose by your blood ketones. If your ratio is under 80, you're actively losing weight and you might be triggering some autophagy. Drop it under 40 and your immune system is really engaging, giving you a very solid chance of being in autophagy. But if you can push that ratio under 20, you are creating the absolute ultimate environment for a deep cellular cleanup. It's just a really fantastic, practical way to actually know if those biological switches inside you have flipped.
So, getting back to the timeline, right at that 24-hour mark is where a short fast really hits its peak initial benefit. Your insulin is completely flat, and autophagy, it isn't just doing some light preliminary sweep-ups anymore. It has become a systemic, full-body deep clean. Your cells are aggressively hunting down and breaking apart those misfolded proteins we talked about. And this is absolutely crucial, because these misfolded proteins are strongly linked to chronic inflammation and serious neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. Running a solid 24-hour fast gives your brain and your body the uninterrupted time it desperately needs to clear out all that inflammatory grime.
But what happens if you push that fast even further into prolonged territory? Well, the general cleanup evolves into a highly specialized teardown. Enter mitophagy. Mitophagy is a specific, elite branch of autophagy, and its sole mission is to target your mitochondria. Now, mitochondria are the power plants of your cells. Over time, just like any heavily used piece of machinery, they get worn out and damaged. The problem is, a broken mitochondrion doesn't just quietly stop working. It actually becomes a massive liability, leaking reactive free radicals that damage your DNA and cause massive oxidative stress. A prolonged fast triggers mitophagy, which is the body's brilliant way of targeting these broken power plants, tearing them down and permanently retiring them so that newer, much cleaner ones can take their place.
Let's actually look at the exact biological steps here because it's fascinating. Step 1. A protein called PINK1 accumulates on the outside of a broken mitochondrion that's lost its electrical charge. Think of it like slapping a bright red warning tag on a failing power plant. Step 2. Another protein called Parkin arrives on the scene to reinforce that tag, very clearly marking it for demolition. And step 3, that recycling pouch we talked about, the autophagosome, wraps completely around the tagged mitochondrion, hauls it away, and totally dissolves it into raw materials. So the crucial takeaway here is this: you aren't just surviving without food, you are actively dissolving old, toxic machinery to build brand new, heavily upgraded energy producers.
As you cross into the 48-hour mark, you are officially leveling up into deep structural renovation. At this stage, your human growth hormone reaches its highest sustained levels, and we're talking documented in studies to be anywhere from 3 to 5 times above your normal baseline. This massive elevation does 2 incredibly important things. First, it protects your lean muscle mass with absolute priority, and second, it actively supports deep tissue repair throughout your entire body. Also, that intense mental clarity people often report feeling here, it isn't just from the ketones, it's the result of a brain operating in a totally metabolically stable environment, completely free from the constant neurological static of blood sugar spikes and crashes.
And finally, if you extend into that 72-hour territory, you hit something truly extraordinary: a complete and total immune system reset. By 3 days in, the autophagy process has thoroughly cleared out older, dysfunctional immune cells that were basically just sitting around your body causing chronic, low-grade inflammation. And because nutrient signals like IGF-1 are now deeply suppressed, the hematopoietic stem cells in your bone marrow go into this highly primed, protective state. But the real magic happens when you finally break the fast. This sudden return of nutrient signals those prime stem cells to rapidly start producing a fresh, young, and highly efficient wave of brand new immune cells. You are quite literally rebuilding your immune system from scratch.
Which really brings us to our final thought for this explainer. When we look at the intricate biology of mTOR and AMPK, the surgical precision of mitophagy, and that miraculous immune reset of a 72-hour fast, a very clear picture emerges. Fasting is absolutely not a diet. It is an ancient, evolutionary cellular maintenance program that your ancestors ran naturally, and, more importantly, that your biology still desperately relies on today. By eating constantly, all day, every day, we've essentially locked the repair crew out of the building. So really the question isn't whether your body can handle fasting. The real question is, are you finally ready to give your cells the uninterrupted time they need to heal, repair, and upgrade themselves?